Talk to me. You don't have to talk
Okay,
to
I was
him.
born in 1931 on the Claremont Street, 244 Claremont Street, upstairs. Okay, and the night I was born, my father was in the dump truck business. He used to haul gravel and so on. And my mother was looking for the paper. Right after I was born, the next morning she wanted to read the paper.
Okay. Stop doing that. Okay.
She wanted to read the daily paper for whatever reason. And they brought her paper without the front page. And she wanted to know where's the front page. She found out later that on the front page, and she was looking for my father. My father hadn't showed up yet, and she couldn't understand what happened to my father. But what happened was there was a big accident on St. Clair. My father had smashed into a safety zone. There's these safety zones where the streetcars, where you get on the streetcar, there are these concrete zones, you know, with the light on.
Yeah.
He plowed into that and he had a major accident. He was put in the hospital and he survived that after a week or two or three. That was okay. But why was he in the dump truck business? When he first came from Italy, about 5 or 6 or 7 years prior to that, whatever it was. Oh, sorry, it was about 10, 12 years prior to that. He was working pick and shovel. And my mother was kind of embarrassed. And she said, you could do better than that.
Okay, but what does pick and shovel mean? Like, was he just like digging trenches somewhere or what? Like, what's pick and...
Pick and shovel means
Construction.
You're a contractor, you carry stuff, lumber or this, or you help dig basements for houses, whatever.
Oh, okay.
That's
so you
what
just kind of get like labor, you just kind of like...
Labor, yeah, common labor. And my mother encouraged him to buy a truck and get into a business, buy and sell produce. So,
okay, but what was she doing at the time? She had a...
at the time, my mother was took over her mother's grocery store, a little grocery store on Claremont and Treeford.
Claremont and Treeford, so that's not the same... Was that the same one?
Claremont and Treeford, which now stands California Sandwiches.
Just going to lower that in there. Okay.
You got it on stop? What is he telling us?
Okay, Dad. So then, so he buys. So she takes over the grocery store.
Yeah.
But it wasn't enough income. Is that why, or just because her husband wanted to do something?
Small grocery store wasn't enough income. My father worked as laborer.
Okay.
He bought the truck and he started buying produce in the Niagara Peninsula. He was buying tomatoes were in season. He'd buy tomatoes and he'd buy some peaches and whatever, and take them to the farmer's market and sell them, and bring some stuff to the store to be sold in the grocery store. But he found it was too risky. The produce didn't sell, it went bad the next day or whatever. But he wanted to stay in the produce business, so he started specializing in potatoes, because potatoes were like hardware. And if you didn't sell the whole load today, you'd have it for the next day and so on. So that's how it evolved, him being in the potato business. And 1951, my mother and father decided to tear the old store down at Claremont Street and build the one that exists now. 1951 it was built. Basement and the main floor, and it was the first Italian supermarket in Toronto. And at that time, my father was staying in the store, helping my mother work in the store. He was the butcher, and I took over the potato business. And Gord was going to school. He was still in St. Mike's. He went to school for a couple of years, and then Gord quit and came into the business with me.
Okay, but go back. So your dad then has that truck with him, and you were just telling me about the Rio Speedwagon and all that, right?
My dad had the Rio Speedwagon, and he, in 1948, bought that Mercury for me. I took over the 1948 Mercury straight job, and for a few months, he drove the one truck and loaded it with potatoes. I drove the other and loaded it with potatoes. And then finally he was convinced, my mother convinced him to stay in the store and work. The store started getting busier, and he stayed and worked with her. So Gordon and I started to call ourselves Cappuccitti Brothers, and we handled the potatoes. After Gord quit school, he became a partner with me. And
Okay, so you would come up to Alliston, you'd buy potatoes? Okay.
yeah, we'd go to, we extended it. We would go to Leamington, Ontario, buy the early potatoes in the latter part, mid-June, and then move on to Mount Albert, Ontario, and then later Alliston, and so on. We started supplying, we were the first ones in Toronto to pack 10-pound bags.
Oh.
We started putting.
What was it up until then? What were they packing?
They were bulk. All the chain stores had them bulk,
Oh.
like they do now.
Well, you can talk, just, can you stop doing that though? Okay,
Yeah, we started, and we had a label called King Spud.
okay. Oh, I think I've seen that, right? Yeah, with the guy with the crown.
And we worked out of the garage that was behind the store, the grocery store. And at those days, the chain stores were using bulk. Everything was bulk. And we got the idea from the States. We started with 10-pound, putting them in 10-pound.
Now, is that when you met Mr. Burstein or no? Like, was he the one doing the bags then for you?
No. Before this, I met Mr. Burstein when I was in the potato business. I was buying jute bags. We had potatoes in 75-pound jute.
What's jute?
It's like burlap.
Oh, okay.
It's burlap jute. And Burstein's father was in the bag business, Burstein bag.
Okay.
And I would start buying, my father was buying bags for him also. Then I took over, and I was buying bags. And Hy at the time was working in the back of the father's warehouse, cleaning out sugar bags. And so these are all used bags. We were buying used Prince Edward Island potato bags, because in those days Prince Edward Island had to use new bags, and Ontario didn't. But we would buy the used Prince Edward Island bags that Mr. Burstein was collecting from different stores and whatnot. And that's how I got in contact with Burstein, which was back in the mid-40s.
Oh.
With his father. Then he was working, and this was his father. So, all right, so that was it. So that's how I met the Bursteins. So we handled the potatoes, but seeing that we got chain store business, we couldn't get enough supply from the farmers. Farmers were usually small growers. That's when we decided to share crop, which means we would buy the seed, fertilizer, and we would split the crop with the farmer. We would supply that. He would supply the land and the labor. And what the price was at the farm level, we would pay him half. So at this point, we managed to get it up to a couple of thousand acres of sharecroppers. And we carried on like that.
Okay, so you did that, you share crop, and then, so then how do you go from there?
Okay. Then from there, when it got around mid-October, the local potatoes would be all finished. The fields would be all harvested. Whatever extras the farmers would have, they put in storage. Anything we shared crop with was sold for cash. We didn't store. And there wasn't much business after that because the Prince Edward Island potatoes took over the Ontario market. Prince Edward Island and New Brunswick.
Oh, because they can grow them longer?
It was their turn. They came up, the government subsidized them. The government paid their freight.
I see.
That was part of the deal.
But how were they not out of
Canada? When they don't forget, at the turn of the century, Prince Edward Island did not belong to Canada.
Was it its own place?
It was its own. So in order, the incentive for them to join Canada, they were so far from markets, they were closer to Boston and New York.
Oh.
So to come into Canada, they got incentives. Anything they grew, any produce or anything would be freighted to the markets in Ontario and Quebec with little cost. The government subsidized. So when it came that time of the year, it was too hard to compete with this free freight from Prince Edward Island and New Brunswick. So the potato was over. We had these, now at this point, we had big tractor trailers now because we kind of built the business up so big that we were supplying the mining towns up north. North Bay, Sudbury, Timmins, Sault Ste. Marie, Rouen, Quebec, Val d'Or, and so on. Those people used to buy direct carloads and split. One wholesaler would buy a carload and split it 2 or 3 ways. And we made a deal for them where we would give them overnight delivery of Ontario potatoes on truck, provided they had a minimum order of, say, 50 bags or so. So we handled the whole north, mining camps, convents in Quebec, seminaries, wherever there was a customer. We supplied the north, and we would bring blueberries back. So that was Uncle Gord's department. He was on one truck, and we had a couple of drivers, and I would stay in Alliston area doing the buying for potatoes. He would load blueberries for bakeries in Michigan, and New Jersey, etc.
Okay, where would he get the blueberries from?
The blueberries come from Quebec, very popular,
Okay,
hand-picked blueberries.
Okay.
And wild blueberries. Okay, these were not cultivated. In those days, there was no cultivated blueberries. They're all wild.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So now, when the potato season was over and the blueberry season was over, and the freeze up came in Ontario, which is around November, then we had these tractor trailers and with no work for them. We had payments, heavy payments. So we would haul.
What kind of trucks did you have? They were tractor trailers, but what were they? What were they, like Mack trucks, or what were they like?
Yeah, we bought, the first one was
Please don't look.
an L2, the first truck was an L200 International tractor with a 42-foot Trailmobile trailer. And Thermo Kings were not invented at that time.
What's that?
Thermo King is a refrigerator.
That's what I thought. Okay.
So we had these trucks with a little lawnmower motor on the top of the trailer with a big fan inside, and it would blow the air through the trailer. But in the front of the trailer, there was like a bunker. We would put ice in the bunker, and the fan would blow the cold ice air across. Only when we were coming back from Florida, we didn't need that, hauling Canadian rutabagas down to the southern states. We would haul them to from Virginia, Alabama, Atlanta, Jacksonville, all east of the Mississippi, and we would wind up in Florida to bring a load of fruit back, mostly grapefruit, oranges, and sometimes tomatoes. We were the first ones to haul vine-ripened tomatoes out of Florida to Toronto.
Okay. Now you were driving then too.
Yeah,
Physically, you were
I
driving.
drove, and Gord, I drove one truck. Well, the first truck we had was one. Gord and I would run one trip. He would take one trip. I would take. And then the year later, or 2 years later, we had about 4 or 5 trucks, and we had drivers. And then I quit driving.
How many years later did you quit driving?
Oh, probably 4 or 5 years, 3 or 4 years.
So how old would you have been then? Like from when you started driving to when you quit?
Let's see. I quit driving. I got married in 58. I probably quit driving around 56 or 7. Got married in 58, and then had to go back to driving for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Sell the trucks, got into financial difficulty, sold the trucks. Your mother worked, and I used to drive her to work and take the odd trip to Florida, whatever, until the...
Well, would you be driving someone else's truck then, you mean?
No,
Or you're
driving
always
my own truck. Yes, at one point I sold the one truck that I had. Well, when we got into financial trouble, let me go back, got into financial trouble, we had...
He was in financial trouble before.
I know that.
four,
You can talk,
we
Mom.
have 4 trucks. Gord, so we had a Frank Blake was working with us. So what we did was we split the 3 trucks up. My brother Gord took a truck and he was on his own. Frank Blake took a truck, he was on his own, which was Frank Blake is Cupid.
Yeah.
And I took a truck and we were all on our own then. And the one extra truck we had, we sold it, got some money. At that point, I had developed a lot of debt because the previous season we were sharecrop on, there was 200 acres of our sharecrop that we grew on our own. It was a very dry year. We owed fertilizer bill, we owed for seed. We had a truck rollover in South Carolina, which insurance wouldn't cover us. It took months to collect the insurance. And at that point, I just put whatever checks I was writing, whatever account I had, I put it in your mother's name, Francis's name. We had just started going together then. And I had a car then, a 56 Lincoln. Whatever we had that had any equity in it was in your mother's name. And we had a little bank account, and we were all on our own, three of us then. Now, what else?
Okay, so let's go back to, I want to know when the watermelons, when you started doing the watermelons and all that stuff.
Yeah, so
And I want to know. Go
I
ahead.
start doing their
yeah,
books.
so now
I
I would stay in, I hired a driver on my one truck, and when the watermelon season started in southern Florida, I would stay there, buy fields of melons, fields that had been picked over 2 or 3 times, buy them at a discount, and hire a crew and harvest whatever was left, ship them either to Montreal, Toronto, or Chicago.
How did you ship them?
By rail or by American hired trucks.
Okay.
And
I used to make out the papers.
yeah, your mother made out the export. You had to make out export papers then, and I got melons on credit because I knew some of the farmers there, the big melon growers, for years earlier. Because I always worked watermelon, even before I went into financial trouble. I used to handle watermelon in season, and we kept going.
Okay, but then, okay, so what were all the places you drove to? Let's go backtrack. So when you were driving, tell me all the places you.
Driving, well, one trip, for instance, your Uncle Ross he was about 16 years old or something. He came with me. That trip we did Newport News, Virginia, Ahoskie, North Carolina, and Atlanta on that trip. Went down to southern Florida, picked up a load of fruit, came back to Toronto. Your Uncle Ross was with me then.
Okay, and what did you bring then? Were you bringing potatoes down there, or were you
No. The trip I brought rutabagas.
Rutabaga.
Well, when no rutabaga season was over, we would haul hay. Hay is not very heavy, so it was hard to get any kind of a heavy load on it, but we paid a little extra to the farmers. We paid them maybe a dime a bale extra, and they put 3 wire bales, which compressed the hay heavy. They're in bales.
Yeah.
And this way we got an extra couple of ton or more on it. We would take them to farmers market in Charleston, South Carolina, or Atlanta farmers market and farmers would buy them some of them to cattle farms in Tampa. There were a lot of Spanish cattle farmers in Tampa. So we did the racetracks also in Florida. We did Sunshine Park and Gulfstream years ago. So depending on what the orders were, we had a broker work for us when we sold straight loads. If it was for horses, it was Timothy. If it was for cattle, it was alfalfa. And this is what we did.
Now, did you do any of those runs to Alabama or any of those places? Did you ever have to, or
yes,
Mississippi?
I did.
Yeah.
Yes. New Orleans.
You stop
Why?
that?
Why do you want me to stop it? Just talk.
Because he has stories that will curl your hair, and all you're getting is driving the truck.
I know,
here and
that's what I
there.
want to do. I want to get some of the stories
You
now.
got
Those are
enough of
sides
where
I
he's
can't-
driving. If you hear the stories
Well, that's what I
that
want.
go along with these trips.
I know, that's what I want, are the
and
stories now.
life that came after that truck. You could write a book.
Well, that's what I want. I want some of the stories. Like, I want to know, like, Steve
Not
the
that I
Balloon
went
and
to
all these guys.
Alabama.
I want your stories. I want
You
some of the
have-
stories.
Nobody has any idea what it involved to get where we are today. Nobody, except Rocky and I.
Okay, good. I do have a whole
Yeah,
other
but
take here. No, so I want to hear some of the stories.
Talking on camera, I get
Do you want a drink? Can I make you a drink?
talk.
Do you want a beer or
When
something?
he starts
Or
drinking,
Or a vodka?
he'll believe me, he'll
How about I make you?
he'll
How about a vodka and orange?
It's kind of nice weather. Why don't you take the kids to the
Because you know
beach?
what? They're fine with what they're doing. I know it's nice weather.
Beautiful.
That's
Take them,
okay.
and then we'll talk when the sun goes down.
No, then you'll be gone. Like you'll want to drive home or
We'll do it
something.
again some other time.
No. We're at the point now. I've got the
You have
camera.
to hear
everything's
how
good.
we got out of that $90,000 debt. You have to hear
Okay.
some of the deals that we got
Do you want some
into.
lunch and a drink and we can talk?
Some of the deals hanging by our
you're not-
toenails.
Tell me what it entailed, like one trip. Like, give me an idea of what would happen
Okay.
on a trip.
We would leave Toronto, head up to either Walkerton, Exeter, Ontario, in that area, load of turnips, rutabagas in the wintertime. It's always in the winter. Sometimes we'd hit a storm up there and had to stay over there. We would take the load, cross at Niagara, and go through New York State, Pennsylvania. It was the first hurdle was Pennsylvania, because we were always overloaded for Pennsylvania. And the state troopers, anytime they seen a tractor trailer with a set of tandems,
What's that?
it's a trailer, it's a 42-foot trailer with 8 wheels in the back and 8 wheels on the front pulling.
Okay.
Okay, they realized we were overloaded because mostly in Pennsylvania they travel with single axle trailers. So they pull us over and there was a standard fine of $50 roughly.
So they could tell just by seeing that you were driving this type
Well,
of
they would
truck.
pull you over and they would
Then
take
they-
you to a coal yard or to a lumber yard, the closest scale to wherever they pulled you over, weighed you. And if you overload, they would take, if you were overloaded, which we were, they would take you to the judge, JP, and usually the fine was anywhere from $38 to $50. If you were able to bribe careful and bribe the trooper, you got away with $10 or $15.
Okay, how would you bribe them?
Well, you would tell them that you had no money and you're in a hurry. You would give them some soft story. And if you had we always looked for any soldiers hitchhiking along the road. There were a lot of soldiers there, either at truck stops looking for rides. And we would always pick up a soldier and give him a ride because that was like money in the bank. If you got pulled over for overload or for speeding, you would always say that he had to get back to the barracks in time. And Americans are pretty
Patriotic.
patriotic that they would say 9 chances out of 10 they'd let you go. But anyway, if you got to the judge, you didn't have the money, you would have to leave something. If you had the money, you had to pay. If you didn't have the money, you either have to spend the night in jail till the money got there, or you would leave either a spare tire, truck tire, whatever you thought the judge thought would be appropriate. And sometimes we'd leave a watch. We bought these cheap watches and then.
Okay, yeah, I want to hear that story about the watch. But also,
Yeah.
did you ever spend a night in jail? Did you ever just end
Yeah, I
up
would
sick?
spend the odd a couple of times waiting.
And this would usually be Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah,
If this ever happens, Pennsylvania.
No, Pennsylvania. You got through Pennsylvania, and there was no way to get through Virginia because all the main highways had scales and they were open 24 hours.
So
we-
why, but overloaded for what? Because you're too heavy, you'll break the roads, or you're just not allowed to bring?
Well, that's a good question. Yes, that they felt that you would be breaking the roads. You would.
Keep going, I just want to shut the door. Mom, can you shut that door? I'm picking this up on the thing. Okay, so go on.
Plus, the railways had big lobbies in the United States government, and they wanted to keep the truck traffic down, and most of the stuff shipped by rail in those days. That's what they wanted. That's what they liked. So that's one of the main reasons why the Eastern Seaboard was tough on trucks and truck roads.
Okay. So tell me the story about the watch. There's a good watch story.
Oh, yeah. So one particular time, my brother Gord got stopped in Marysville, Pennsylvania. He was overloaded. They took him to the judge. He had no money, and he left a watch that he had bought in New York, and we pulled this maybe half a dozen times. This one time, Gord, on his other trips, instead of going through Marysville, he would detour and go around Harrisburg, an extra 8 or 10 miles, not to go through the same area that he had left the watch. Now, a year later, I'm driving through Marysville, and I get pulled over by a trooper. And I was not overloaded, and I wasn't speeding at the time. And I told him that. He said, I know you're not loaded, you're not overloaded, I can tell from how your truck is sitting. But he says, follow me to the station. Follow him to the station. He had my license, driver's license he was holding. Followed him to the station. And he said, you had left the watch at the judge here a year ago. I said, no, I didn't. Oh, yes. No, I knew what he was talking about. I knew it was Gord. But of course I denied that I know anything about it. He said, no, I can't forget that name on the truck. That's a rare name. And he says, we got the watch. So he says, if you got to pay your fine and redeem the watch. I said, well, I know what you're talking about. In the meantime, he called the judge. And to my surprise, the judge said and told him that he would call the fine even for the watch. I couldn't understand that. When the trooper got off the phone, he says, you're a lucky guy today. You made $50. Why? What do you mean? He says, well, the judge is willing to forget the fine, forget if he can keep the watch, because it's the only watch that ever keeps proper time on his wrist. He has a certain type of blood that other watches either go too fast or too slow or whatever. So I still said, oh, I don't know what you're talking about, but thanks, fine. And I carried on my way, and then I called Gord. The first chance I got to tell him he could keep going. He could drive through Marysville. He didn't have to go around to Harrisburg. He could have saved those extra miles. But anyway, when we get to, we used to go right through to Washington. So once you're through with Pennsylvania, you hit Washington. There was no bypasses at the time. So in Washington, there was a truck stop called Capitol Truck Stop. And there were trucks waiting that would carry overloads across Virginia into North Carolina. So if you were overloaded 5,000 pounds, for example, you put 5,000 pounds or 50 boxes or 50 bags of rutabagas on this truck, and he would take 2 or 3 other overloads from other trucks, and he would go through the state of, from Washington to the state of Virginia to North Carolina, and he'd put it back on our trucks. This way it would be legal for the scales. Those guys usually had what we called circus wagons. They had trucks that were kind of run down, and they were sort of renegade guys, and we would have to keep close with them in case they broke down. We'd have to help them get going, or see that they didn't run off with our produce. And this,
Well, yeah, that's what I'd be worried about.
Yeah.
You'd have to,
Well,
yeah. So you usually put someone in the cab with them, or?
No. What we would do is, one truck would go ahead of the caravan. The overload carrier would be between us, another couple trucks would be behind, and we'd keep a close eye on them. If he pulled over, we'd pull over.
Yeah.
But most of them were doing that on a regular basis. So
Now, did you have CBs then or something, or walkie-talkies or something?
No,
How did you communicate? No, nothing?
they
Wow.
were not. So we're talking in the early 50s. So, and once we got on our road back on in North Carolina, we would carry on to either Atlanta, Charleston, Columbia, or if we're going further west to Jackson, Mississippi, or in around, in the odd time, took a few loads into New Orleans. And that was it. Now,
Okay, let's break, because I'm just about out of tape here. I'm just gonna put the new tape in. Go ahead.
Wendy died at the funeral parlor. I said, Joan, that was his wife. And how did he marry her? He made another mistake. She just had come out of a convent. Her mother, she came from a mixed up, drunken family. She was in a convent, she come out. Wendy was quite a bit older than her. She married Joan, you know, her friend. Okay.
She was in my room in grade 8, this wife.
Yeah.
It's such a
Small one.
crazy.
So I said,
Almost
Joan, how
died,
you
and she
making?
was beautiful.
I said, Joan, how you making
Beautiful
out?
girl.
She says, well, there's a bit of insurance and that.
Joan,
And I went to Lion and I said, Lion, what's it gonna cost? I forget, he said, for a funeral, I don't know, 3,000 or something. I says, cash. Because Lion, he was a horse buck too. He was a horse buck. I said, I give you 2. You can cover it. So I said to Joe, forget about it, it's done. What do you mean? I don't know, forget about it. So that was Wendy. And yeah, so we paid. We got cash from him for years. I figured it was only appropriate, but he always, first of all, he never paid you ahead. He always had to wait till he sold the load. One day he gets a heart attack. This is a side story.
Mm-hmm.
His wife calls his doc. She says, Wendy's dying in the hospital, and he wants to get out of bed. They won't let him out. They said he's got to stay. He's going to be dead. No. So she says, well, I says, what can I do? He says, well, if you talk to him, you're going to talk to him because he'll listen to you, you know. So Donna, she says, listen to you. So I shot down to the hospital. So I said, Wendy, what are you doing? He says, oh, he kept saying, he's laying there and he's going, the BR means the bankroll, the money, the BR. He's going, the BR is under the act. He says, the money, because he had collected, he got the heart attack, works for the hospital, he had his bankroll, the money that he collected from the potatoes. So he says, it's under the mattress. Because, you know, he said, the BR. He says, he thought that's what I ran down for. I says, listen, I didn't come down, I grabbed the BR, I didn't come down for that, because your wife said you want to leave here. Grab the BR.
So it was under the mattress in the hospital bed.
Yeah, he stuck it there, so I guess Joe told him I'm coming down or something. So I says, you son of a gun, he always want to pay for the damn load. I says, after it's old, you're hoping that maybe I get hit by the train in Tottenham or something. You call it a deal, I would razz him like that to make him laugh. Oh, so I grabbed him and I says, you better stay because you're going to die. I said, you stay, you're going to die. Anyways, he survived that one, but he died a few years after that. But I told a couple of times I went out, we were going out to the leach, I had no dough, I had to depend on getting from Windy Colonel, somebody on my way down. So that's a little side story.
It's a great
How
story.
broke were we? We had
Huh?
Chinese food coming to the door one night, Ross and
Oh,
Mary.
yeah.
How broke were we?
What's that
Nobody
story?
knows, but we do.
So anyways, what else?
I don't know, let me think about it.
Yeah, I've known him for, his father used to sell potatoes. And he used to work with his father when I worked with my father. And even after when I was on my own, he was working with his father. And then he had a falling out with his father, and then he went bad. He was
Wasn't he the good bad guy? You said you called him a good bad guy, right?
Yeah, he used to steal truck tires and stuff. He stole a lot of stuff, different stuff. And he was the police. He was in jail a few times. And whenever there was a warrant out for him, he would get a hold of me, and he would come to Florida with me in the truck, get out of town. And that's the time we were in Atlanta, Georgia. I think I told you. We're in Atlanta, Georgia. You heard that one.
Which one? Tell me.
Well,
the
we're in
story.
Atlanta, Georgia, and we get there too late. We blew a couple of tires. We got no dough. We're there too late to unload the wholesale. This is in the old market. Across the street from the old market, right across the street, there was a motel, Mary's Motel or something with a neon sign. half dead, blinking. You got the picture, you know.
I got it. Yeah.
So, okay, and it's like real, so anyway, we pull in, the guy won't unload us, so we back the truck up to the ramp where we're gonna unload in the morning. And this is like in the winter time, which is, it would have to be a cool night in Atlanta. And he's got I remember he had a park on with the black hood, looked like the Ku Klux Klan in reverse, you know? Okay. So I said, okay, let's go. Let's go see what the hell they charge for a motel, see if we can get a room. Get the loan morning. So we go to this, some old hag comes to the door, old hag, she's probably years younger than I am now, but anyway, she's an old hag. Yeah, we need a room. Yeah, that'll be, I think, $4.50 or $3.95 or something like that. I said, well, this is maybe 7, 8 o'clock at night, sort of. So I put my hand in my pocket. That's all, geez, that's all I got. I had maybe $2, $2.50, I don't know. And that says, Red, you got any dough in your pocket? So put his hand in, he comes up with about 50, 60 cents. He got it. I said, no, this is all we got between us. That's not enough. I said, well, look, we're gonna sleep. We're gonna be out of here at 5 in the morning. We gotta unload the crowd. The room's empty. What the hell's this?
Because you said that you wanted.
That's all. Anyway, she took the money, gave us the key to the room. So Red said, he was a worker too, Red. He says, Rock, he says, you sleep in. You did most of the day. You sleep in. I'll go across in the morning. I get them started unloading. All right, Red. So next morning, he's there. I wake up maybe an hour or two later. Go across the street, and they're unloading them days. You know, they put stuff in these 2-wheelers. They wheel them out. The black guys are unloading. He's standing there with this Ku Klux Klan in reverse. He's got a coffee in his hand like this, and he's directing me. I says, where the hell did you get the coffee? The coffee was only a dime in those days. I said, where the hell did you get the coffee? Where'd you get the... He started jumping up and down laughing. He said, what the hell do you think I'm stupid? He says, I help like a dime. He says, I hate you on a dime. A dime. He said, we had 2 salamis, 6-footers. Salamis like us in Atlanta, Georgia. We got a dime for a cup. He said, I hate Joe. That was the term, held back. Held up.
What is it? What's the term?
H-O.
H-O
means hold out.
Hold out, okay.
I hate you on a dime. He said, you think I'm stupid? He says, completely. I want to get that effing back. I was always going. That's just myself. Jesus Christ, what do I come down to here? You know, what are we down to here? Like,
yeah.
So, but you say, how do we get further? Well, once we get to start unloading, I go to the office. I say, you got to give me an advance now on the freight.
What do you mean by an advance on the freight? Why would they give you an advance?
Freight,
Okay.
like I was hauling this load for some particular, for wholesaler, for maybe Doug McDonald, who was working with Canada Packers at the time.
Doug McDonald, who eventually worked for you guys?
Yeah, he was with Canada. That's how we got, that's another story. That's another
He worked for Canada
story.
Packers, okay.
He worked for Canada Packers in Walkerton. They used to ship turnips and eggs from the farmers in the area. But anyway, I would say, look, I got it in advance. So enough, the load paid $300. Well, give me $100 and charge it back, take it off. When you pay for the load, when you pay Canada Packers for the load, they advance your
driver.
So when I collect from Canada Packers, I get maybe the freight less the $100.
Less the $100 to advance. Okay, yeah.
That's the way we did it in the days. But swing back to Doug McDonald. I was hauling a load for Hobby Brothers, and they set me up there to pick up a load, Canada Packers, going south. And in those days, I had a truck was on the door, Cappuccitti Brothers, was Bexar, Alabama. That was the town, Bexar, Alabama. No Toronto, okay? And I had Alabama truck plates and New Hampshire trailer plates. Why? Because you had to have one set of United States
Sure.
You had to have one set of U.S. plates in the U.S. And we didn't want, we always acted like we were Americans, see? On our plates, we had these butterfly screws. We'd take off and get across the line. If we were moonlighting, sometimes there were no loads coming out of Canada. We would pick a load up in upstate New York around Albion, okay, or Batavia. They were taking loads south. We're not supposed to do that. In this Canadian truck can't pick up and deliver within the U.S. Pick up in Canada, bring to the States, pick up in
Just
the
like
States.
carriers, like
Yeah.
airplane carriers. You
Couldn't
can't do
do
that.
within,
So
okay.
do you mean Albany? Albany, New York? Or is Albany?
Batavia or
Batavia?
Elba, E-L-B-A.
Oh, Elba, okay.
It's a growing
I said
area
Elba,
around the Rochester area, not far from it. So, now you got me off track.
Sorry, okay, so you'd have the plates, you have butterfly
Oh
screws.
yeah, and then on the door I had Bex, Alabama, and we used to have Georgia driver's license at the time. As long as you got one set of driver's license in the States, we always had that, a Florida driver's license or Georgia. Okay, so the first time I go to Walkerton to pick up a load, and Doug McDonald, he was only 17 or 18. He was apprenticing with an older guy that was in charge of the sales. Oh yeah, and he was a truck lover. Ooh, yeah, where you going? Oh, what kind of truck you got? He says a 200 International, 40-foot tube trailer. Oh, he would come up, he would have a habit of doing this when he sits down. He'd come up and he'd look in a truck, sleeper. We had sleeper cabs then. That was the first sleeper cab you saw in Ontario. And he'd come, oh, wow, Bexar, Alabama. Where is Bexar, Alabama? And I said, I didn't know where the hell it was. I said, Southeast Alabama. Why do I have Bexar, Alabama? There's a truck stop in North Carolina that advertises. Some judge in Alabama says, we'll send you a license plate, send us $25, and we'll give you a box number. And so you send them the money, they send you a box number. And so now I got a set of Alabama plates, and then you do the same thing to in New Hampshire, or yeah, I had New Hampshire plates. Sent to the county there, and send a check, and they send you, and they'd send it to the truck stop. We had a P.O. box there. So that's why I had these things, Bexar, Alabama. So the next time I come for a load there, he knew the population, Bexar, Alabama, there's only 350 people in that. It's only a hamlet. I said, well, yeah. Anyways, so he became a truck bug, and then I started hauling direct for him, see? And then he would buy, when the terms were over, he would buy stuff in Leamington to ship for Canada Packers, to ship to Newfoundland, different branches. And then he got tired of that, or they were getting too strict with him, too tough on him, that he was complaining, and I used to meet him in the farmer's market. They moved their office from there to the terminal, because if they had a place in the terminal, they needed more activity going through the terminal to justify their existence there, I guess. So he moved to the city, but he's a small town guy. So I used to meet him in the market. He was complaining one day. He said, tell you what, I said, we'll set you up in business. I says, by this time, we're getting on our feet. We'll set you up. Do the turnip deal. And our trucks get the first loads, and anything you left over, you give it to others. And it took him a while to accept. He thought about it, and then he wound up by sending a letter instead of seeing me in the market. He's one of those guys. And he says, under one condition, though, that we called the company DK McDonald Farms. Says, yeah, anything you want, DK, that's fine. And then the Canada Packers, he bought the bags. He wanted to use the Wax Doll was their brand. Canada Packers, when he left, they quit shipping turnips. They said, look, buy our bags and use our label. So we bought the bags they had in stock. I don't know, $3,000 or $4,000 a bag.
Just a second. You guys, a little bit quiet, please, or go in the playroom.
Okay. So now that's how we got now in Walkerton. I go maybe a year after that or 2 years. I don't know. In Walkerton, there's a restaurant called the Wonder Bar. We used to either go there and eat before. Or
Just a second, Sloan.
So
Can you keep it down a bit, please, or go in the playroom, okay?
we had to do things. So at the corner of the restaurant, they had a little booth there where I'm not busy. They sell license plates, like, you can renew your license plates, like,
Wow.
So got an idea, because the license plates in Ontario, that they were like $700, $800, you know, for the weight that we would carry, the maximum weight. Depends on how much weight you were going to be licensed for. So I remember once we said to the girl there that sells the waitresses to give her a nice dip, and then she's going to the back we need to buy license plates. We want to renew our plates. Okay. So she fills out a bunch. I says, can you do it in pencil? They get pencil on ours. And I took the lightest weight when the truck was empty, you know, where the license maybe cost $100, $125, something like that, rather than $700, $800. Get the license, and then rub it up and get it typed in there with the full range, you know. I wish we did that once, but we always relied on our American plate. If it was only 50, you can get a truck. And why would we get a tractor in one state and a trailer in another? Because Alabama, let's say their tractor was $50 and their trailer was $500. And in New Hampshire, the trailer would be $50 and the tractor would be $300 or $400. And the states have all different rules. So we would pick the lowest state for the tractor, the lowest state for the trailer, put them and have an address. Then, you know, we would take our Canadian plates off with the butterflies. We'll just leave the American one on, tighten it up. Georgia license. And we were carving out a living. That's what we were doing.
So you would cross the border, pull over, and then switch the plates?
Oh yeah, what's the American side? All of a sudden,
Yeah.
you know, pull in the truck stop.
Brilliant.
No, I'm brilliant. This is trying to make a living. This is what it was. You know, this is what it was. There's no, you had to do that. You had to do what you had to do. Because my main goal was to get that payment for the truck for the month. Get the payment. That's what it was. What do you think? Oh, money, no. That's, you know, but things might have been tough. But when I look back and see the kids I went to school with and that come, what day they were working in factories making $30, $35 a week. You know, that you know, they were happy, they were satisfied, but this was better than that. You follow me? It was just, everything was tough, but some things were less tough.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so, no, people were different. People were different. Everybody knew you had to work. You gotta account for something. You gotta grind it out. You got to. I mean, we're in this stinking world here. We might as well do the best we can. Can't have peaches and cream all the time. It's not normal. It's not natural, and it's not right.
John, I have 2 kids go to bed at night, and I go
So you're doing the books.
till 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And I work
And then
during my
we're
lunch hour.
nerves
I had all my books in my middle drawer
Sometimes they're
at
nerves.
work.
sometimes
1
you're
hour
nervous
for
to be
lunch,
shocked.
take his books out, and you know, do
I
all
could
my
show you,
entries.
Donna.
And
I could show you some of the books from that your mother used to. I still
You
have.
still have them.
I'll have I'll show you a copy of what we did, how much sales we did in a couple of the years. Oh no, life.
So we did it.
And don't forget, we had to make
And we were
a jump.
happy to do it.
We had to make a jump from not our whole generation, not just us, our whole generation had to make a jump from that kind of living to when you accumulated and made some money, how you had to, you know, spread it out properly and not go crazy or not, or, you know, or
Not blow it, right, after you got it.
as you made, but it was a slow. The thing is in life, you keep chopping through it and with a machete through the jungle, chopping, keeping your head down, stopping for a rest every now and then waking up one day and looking back and say, God, what a trail I cut. And that's what it is. It's a grind all the way through, but you know, we enjoyed ourselves along the way. We stopped, smelled the roses, we took trips, we took you guys all over and went back to the slaughter. And that's it. And they accumulated, and did everything right, never screwed anybody that ever, unless they did something to me first, then forget it, then I don't stop. I mean, that's my policy. Never, I always help whoever I can deserved it. you know, or who had some entitlement to a help, otherwise.
Yeah.
So, we know the score, I've been around the block a few times.
And then guys, sometimes you would lend people money and they would forget to pay you.
Well, they always.
And if you dare mention it, they would talk to us for 2 years. If you mention that, maybe we could use that money. So life is really funny.
Anyway, well, thank you.
Well, that's only some of it.
That's just a part, that's the tip of the iceberg. It's a good start.
I'm finished now. This is yours.
Okay. All right, Deb, thank you.
Yeah, that's only the start.
That's just the start, but thank you.